Good morning, grade 8. We are now in the second module, module 2, weeks 5 to 8. Okay. Okay. Which is entitled The Circle of Life. Okay, let's take a look at why this module is actually termed as the circle of life. What's with the circle of life? Right? The flow of energy. Okay. Since we're talking about circle of life, we're also talking about the energy. Okay. They need it to carry out life or life processes, which are growth, nutrition, respiration, reproduction, locomotion, excretion, and sensation. Okay. Energy can be derived from different sources. The fundamental source of energy in the environment is the radiant energy from the sun, or the ultraviolet rays from the sun, or the photons from the sun. Autotrophs, which are called self-feeders or producers, use radiant energy to make their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Okay, heterotrophs, other term is other feeders, or consumers, on the other hand, are non-photosynthetic. Okay, we are actually one of the heterotrophs. We are non-photosynthetic. We cannot create their own food, and we usually rely in autotrophs or what? Producers to get some food. Okay, that is they obtain energy by feeding on other organisms. We need to feed, or we usually feed in other organisms. This means that the autotrophs are the first organisms to use radiant energy to their capability to photosynthesize, and then through metabolic processes, this energy is slowly released to the environment, thus providing energy to heterotrophs. Again, autotrophs are the one capable of photosynthesis or capable of photosynthesis, which is the food making process of plant. Okay, without these autotrophs or producers, the heterotrophs cannot actually what? Cannot actually survive. Okay, our survival depends on plants or depends on the autotrophs. The amount of life in an ecosystem can sustain is dependent on the amount of energy that autotrophs can capture. Okay, the more autotrophs in that certain environment or certain ecosystem, the more what? The more variety of organisms can actually live there. The less autotrophs there are, the less heterotrophs can exist. Again, take note that heterotrophs is highly dependent on the autotrophs. This is the one I am actually emphasizing here. Okay, trophic levels. Okay, trophic levels are feeding positions of organisms in a food chain. Okay, we're not talking about food chain. Okay, what's with the food chain? How do this food chain also affect us? Because we are actually included in the food chain. Okay, the first trophic level is composed of organisms that can obtain energy directly from the sun. Okay, they are called autotrophs or the producers. Okay, they are the one capable of producing their own food. Okay, which is the starch or the glucose. That is the product of photosynthesis. Okay, the C6H12O6. The following trophic levels are composed of different heterotrophs or consumers. Okay, after autotrophs, here comes the heterotrophs or the consumers. Right? The primary consumers are the herbivores. Okay, that fed on producers such as snails, cows, and grasshoppers. They're actually herbivores. They're the primary consumers. Okay. The secondary consumers are carnivores. Okay, that fed on herbivores such as big fish and frogs. Okay. The tertiary consumers are carnivores that fed on secondary consumers as well as primary consumers such as snakes, hawks, and sharks. Okay. Detritivore, take note, detritus. Detritivore, the term detritivore came from detritus. Okay, are also part of the food chain. They are organisms that fed on dead organic matter or decomposing organic matter. Okay, question, where does human belong? Is it in the primary consumer, secondary consumer, or detritivores, or tertiary consumers? Anybody? Where does the human belong? Do we belong in the primary consumers, secondary consumers, or tertiary consumers? Can you hear me?
Primary.
Primary, yes. Any other answer? Any other answer? Okay,
Secondary.
come again. Any other answer? Where does the human belong? Primary, secondary, or tertiary?
Secondary.
Secondary,
Yes.
it could be. Yes, any other answer? Any other answer?
None, I guess.
None? We are not included in the ecosystem? We are included in the ecosystem. Any other answer? What do you think? Okay, where does we belong? Okay, let's have, let me call Rhea. Where do you think we belong? Rhea, are you with us? Secondary and primary? Yes, it could be. Tertiary? It could be. The answer is primary, secondary, and tertiary. We belong to those. Why? We are omnivores. Okay? We consume plants and we consume also. We are included in the, we consume plants and we consume carnivores, or we consume the secondary consumers. We are eating meat. We are meat eaters. We also eat dead organic matter. Are you sure, sir? Yes. Your preserved goods. Okay. Your buwad. Those are dead organic matter. Your ginamos. Okay. What else? Your hipon. Those are dead organic matters. And we are one of the detritivores. We are preserving them for consumption. So therefore, we belong to primary, secondary, and tertiary. It depends on where is your placement. Okay. We are now leading towards the food web. We are still in the food chain. Okay. Humans in nature is actually overlapping towards each other, or towards other organisms. We are overlapping. Okay? Because we consume a lot in a particular ecosystem. That is why humans in nature destroys the nature. Again, humans in nature destroys the nature because we are overlapping. we tend to consume a lot. Okay, we tend to consume a lot. Right? Let's move forward. So if you're going to look at the pyramid, this is now the energy flow. Okay. Wait, Keisha is coming. Okay. In the lower part of the pyramid, okay, you can actually see the first trophic level, the producers. These are the photosynthetic plants. Okay. This is the pyramid of energy, as you can see. Okay. First trophic level are the producers. If you're going to look at it, the highest energy is in here. Okay. The second part of the pyramid, or the second level, is the second trophic level. This is the primary consumers. Okay. In the second trophic level, you can see herbivores like grasshopper, what else? Rabbits, and all of those organisms that fed on plants. Okay. They usually fed on plants. Right? The third trophic level, or the secondary consumers. Okay. The secondary consumers are the carnivores. They eat, or they consume the primary consumers. Okay. They consume the primary consumers. Like for example, they eat the grasshopper, or they eat the rabbits, and so on, and on the smaller insects. The fourth trophic level, or the tertiary consumers, okay, they're actually the secondary carnivore. Why? Because they feed on the secondary consumers. Okay, like snakes, sure, but snakes also eat rabbits, correct?
Yes.
Correct. So how would that be possible? Or snakes eat sometimes grasshopper. I saw it. Okay. So this is now the this is now the flow of energy with regards to the food web, or the overlapping food chain. So let's take a look at food web later, right? But the flow of energy there becomes less and less and less until it reaches the apex predator. Okay. The lions, the tigers, okay, these are the apex predator. They usually consume the secondary carnivores. The eagles, so those are the apex predator. Afterwards, these apex predators usually die. Okay, when they die, they are actually eaten by the decomposers. Okay, who are these decomposers? We have the bacteria. Okay, fungus. These are the decomposers. Decomposers now returns the energy. Okay, returns the energy to the soil in order for the first trophic level to absorb. Okay, once these lions, tigers, vultures actually died, okay, when they die, they usually return to the soil. Okay, and without these decomposers, we cannot return this energy to the soil. This is now the ecological importance of decomposers. Because a lot of my students before are asking, okay, this is their question. Sir, what is the importance of worms, of flies, of scavengers? This is now the ecological importance of those. Okay? Without them, we cannot return the energy to the soil, and we cannot let the plant reabsorb it without decomposing. This is the reason behind why we usually create a compost pit Have you tried creating a compost pit in your backyard? Okay. Are you familiar with a compost pit?
No.
No, sir.
No.
Okay, a compost pit is a combination of a dead organic matter. You need to put it in a soil, okay? Cover it with the soil. Like for example, if you have leftover food, what else?
Oh, yeah.
Um, a, an apple, for
Eggshell.
example, you put it in a soil, okay, to create a humus. A humus is a black soil, okay? Why? You are now helping Mother Nature to return back the energy to the soil. Or if your dog died or your cat died, you need to put it back in soil in order to return the energy back to nature. In order for the plants to absorb it back again. So that is now the cycle of energy. Okay. Take note. According to the law of thermodynamics, that energy cannot be destroyed, it cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be converted from one form to another. This is now the conversion of energy. From mechanical going back to chemical. Okay? Chemical because we're moving. These organisms are moving. And chemical because the decomposers actually doing their job in decomposing it and returning back the energy to the soil in order for the plants to absorb it back again. That is actually the process. Do you have any questions so far?
None.
None,
All
sir.
right, let's move forward. In reality, it is uncommon that only a food chain exists. Yes, there is no such thing as a sole food chain. Take note, again, your snake can actually eat rabbits, and your rabbit snake is a primary consumer because they only eat plants or grass or vegetables. Okay. Most of the time, several food chains overlap, forming a food web. This is now your food web. Okay. This is the reality. And you can actually see, or you can actually observe that humans usually overlap. Okay. We are the primary predator actually. Okay. We are the apex. But we usually consume a lot. Okay. If you're going to look at the food chain versus the food web, okay, there is a lot of overlapping food chain in the food web. Okay, as you can see, plants are the producer. Okay, plants will be eaten by the grasshopper here in the process, the food web. Okay, and the grasshopper will eat the spider. Okay, the grasshopper will be eaten by the grasshopper will be eaten by the secondary consumer, rats. The grasshopper also can be eaten by the tertiary consumer, and so on. As you can see, there is an overlapping food chain happening in the food web. Okay, and because of this, tendency is there is an equal distribution of energy. Okay, the unequal distribution of energy will eventually change an organism. Why, sir? Why do you need to change? This is for survival purposes. Okay. Like for example, your hawk or your eagle, Philippine eagle, for example. Okay. The Philippine eagle nowadays becomes extinct. The extinction of the Philippine eagle is because humans are hunting Philippine eagle. That is why we have Philippine eagle conservatory. We tend to conserve what? The species. Because when they extinct, they cannot actually return to nature. That's the reason behind. Okay. So the Philippine eagle tries to cope up tries to cope up and tries to mutate itself with a bigger claws, number one. Number two, they tend to adapt to certain situations like the heat, okay? They usually die also because of the radiant energy or the heat, okay? This is now the adaptation, okay? Here comes the adaptation of certain organisms. Without adaptation, these organisms will die because of the unequal distribution of energy. Okay. Let's move forward. An energy pyramid, the one that I am telling you, is one of type of ecological pyramid that shows the amount of energy available in each trophic level. Right? Again, in each trophic level, you can actually observe that energy becomes less and less and less until it goes in the top. The highest energy came from the producers or the autotrophs. But because of the unequal distribution, tendency is there are a lot of energy that are wasted to the other organisms, but with the aid of the detritivores, these organisms, if they die, the energy will be returned back to nature, to the soil, and absorbed again by the plants. And the cycle repeats again and again. The bottom level of energy pyramid consists of plants, which are producers. Okay, the upper levels are made up of consumers. Okay, the shape of the pyramid shows the amount of energy received by an organism decrease as one moves up the pyramid. Okay, this is the reason also that a lot of animals nowadays becomes extinct. Okay, the extinction of animals are due to what? Are due to the levels of energy and because of hunting. That's the reason behind. Like for example, some species of fish becomes extinct. Why? They try to breed it over and they try to harvest it early. Okay? The early harvesting there consumes a lot of species of that particular fish and eventually turns them into extinction. That's the reason. So therefore, the essence of this lesson is to remind us that we as human usually overlaps with the other organism. And there is an unequal, okay, an equal distribution of energy. Do you have any questions so far? Questions so far?
None, sir.
Right. Did you understand the lesson?
None, sir. Yes, sir.
That's great. Okay. Now, I am not just into paper pencil tests. This is not just for paper pencil test or the grades itself. The lessons here are for you to learn. Okay? If you will not learn the lesson, then this is useless. Okay, that is why this is the main reason why I am discussing it little by little, slower by slow, in order for you to learn out of it. Smaller amount of energy supports smaller numbers of organisms. So the upper level of energy pyramid contains fewer organisms than the level below. Okay, this is the reason behind. Because the level of energy there becomes less and less on the upper. Okay. If you're going to look at again the energy pyramid, you can see that the highest energy is in the what? Producers. And it becomes less and less and less when it actually jumps to the next trophic level. Okay. The great deal of energy is used up as it is transferred to the next topic level or to from one topic level to another. Okay? Or when it gets higher and higher and higher. Okay? The higher it goes, the lesser the energy you can actually see. I think we discussed a lot. Okay? We will continue by next meeting. Do you have any questions so far? Questions so far with the discussed
No.
lesson? Did you understand the introductory, the introduction of the lesson? Okay. I think that will do for today, class. Thank you for your participation. Again, you are graded according to your attendance, according to your participation. That is under class standing. Right? I think that will be all. Have a nice day, everyone. Take your lunch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.